Hulk Hogan was literally wrestling Superman during the 80s and early 90s. Everything started clicking when he came back to WWF in late '83, turned face, and defeated the Iron Sheik for the title at Madison Square Garden. That moment gave birth to Hulkamania, and pro wrestling would never be the same. Kids everywhere were going crazy for this blonde mustache superhero who was preaching about training hard, saying prayers, and eating vitamins. Hogan's whole act was perfect for that era. He'd come out flexing those 24-inch pythons, ripping his shirt off and cupping his ear to the crowd. The red and yellow was iconic. When he'd start hulking up during his matches, the crowd would lose their minds every single time. WrestleMania was basically built around this guy. He main evented almost every early Mania, with that Andre the Giant match at WrestleMania 3 being the absolute peak. But Hogan wasn't just about the big matches. He was everywhere. Saturday morning cartoons, movie roles, even hosting Saturday Night Live. The guy was bigger than wrestling itself. He was a mainstream celebrity. His character work was simple but effective. Whether he was teaming with Mr. T, feuding with Macho Man Randy Savage, or going against monsters like King Kong Bundy, Hogan always played the ultimate good guy fighting for America and his Hulkamaniacs. But by 1993, the act was getting stale, and steroid scandals were hurting his image. Hogan needed an image change to stay fresh in the changing world, and hence, we got the New World Order. After leaving WWF in '93, Hogan was basically wrestling around in WCW wearing the same old red and yellow. Nobody was really buying into Hulkamania anymore. The crowds were getting bored, and so was everyone else. Then July 7th, 1996 happened at Bash at the Beach, and Hogan changed the wrestling industry once again. The Outsiders were feuding with WCW, and during this big six-man tag match, out comes Hogan. Everyone's thinking he's gonna save the day for WCW. But instead, Hogan leg drops Randy Savage and joins up with Hall and Nash. The crowd was throwing garbage in the ring, going absolutely nuts with anger. Hollywood Hulk Hogan was born. And man, what a character change. Gone were the red and yellow. Now he's rocking all black with that awesome lightning bolt design. He grew out this black beard, slicked back his hair, and started acting like the biggest douchebag on the planet. He was spray painting on the WCW title, acting like he owned the place, and getting nuclear heat from crowds who felt betrayed. The Monday Night Wars were at their peak, and NWO Hogan was leading the charge for WCW. His feuds with Sting, the whole Goldberg thing, feuding with the Wolfpack, this era showed Hogan could actually work as a heel after being a face for over a decade. However, behind the scenes, Hogan's creative control and booking power was causing the WCW backstage scene to turn into chaos. By 1999, WCW was starting to crumble, and even Hollywood Hogan couldn't save that sinking ship. It was time for the Hulkster to return home, and nobody could have expected what happened next. After WCW died in 2001, nobody really expected Hogan to have another memorable run in WWE. Everyone thought Hogan's best days were already behind him. But boy, was everyone wrong. At WrestleMania 18, Hogan faced The Rock in a match that'll always be etched in history. You could feel the arena shifting during that match. Hogan was supposed to be the bad guy, but the crowd was going absolutely insane for him. All those nostalgic feelings came flooding back. People were losing their minds for their childhood hero again. WWE had no choice but to capitalize on the momentum and turn Hogan face. After turning face again, Hogan had this incredible late career run where he won the WWF Championship at the age of 49 by defeating Triple H. His feud with Kurt Angle showed he could still hang with the technical guys. And teaming with Edge for the tag titles elevated the rated R superstar to the main event scene. However, fans soon started speculating if Hogan was once again using his booking powers behind the scenes to influence his position. The Shawn Michaels program was probably the biggest piece of evidence. Their match at SummerSlam 2005 will always be remembered as a classic for all the wrong reasons. Frustrated with Hogan's refusal to put him over in their planned series of matches, HBK was bumping around like crazy for Hogan, making him look like a joke in front of the whole world. But if you thought this was strange, things were about to get really strange with some masked shenanigans. After some backstage drama with WWE management, Hogan got written off TV through storyline punishment from Vince McMahon. But instead of just leaving, WWE came up with this absolutely ridiculous Mr. America gimmick. Hogan shows up wearing a basic mask, using his exact same theme music, doing all his signature poses and moves, but pretending he's this mysterious new wrestler. The best part was watching Vince McMahon's character trying to prove Mr. America was actually Hogan. He had decent matches during this run, beating Roddy Piper at Judgment Day and working with guys like Kurt Angle. but the whole thing felt like a weird fever dream. You could tell nobody really knew what they were doing with it. After a few months of this nonsense, Hogan just got tired of the whole situation. It felt like Hogan had played all his cards in the WWE, and it was time for him to find a new home. When Hogan showed up in TNA in January 2010, everyone thought this was going to be huge. Impact Wrestling was finally getting their big-name star who could compete with WWE, but instead, things went downhill real quick. Right from the start, Hogan was coming in with Eric Bischoff, talking about flipping the company upside down. The whole presentation felt like WCW all over again, and not in a good way. They were pushing out homegrown TNA talent to make room for Hogan's buddies and washed-up WCW guys. The storylines were confusing as hell. First, there was Hogan mentoring Abyss and giving him his Hall of Fame ring. Then, there was this whole Team Hogan versus Team Flair thing that nobody really cared about. But the worst part was the Immortal storyline. Hogan turning heel again, taking over the company with Bischoff, screwing over Dixie Carter. It felt like the same old NWO stuff rehashed for a smaller audience. When he became the on-screen president of TNA, you could tell backstage politics were getting out of hand. His actual wrestling was pretty limited by this point. The guy was clearly hurting physically, having multiple back surgeries during his TNA run. When he did wrestle, it was mostly short matches or gimmicky stuff. The Aces and Eights angle with Bully Ray was probably the most interesting thing he did there. Having his daughter marry the guy who turned out to be the leader of the biker gang was classic soap opera wrestling, even if it felt kinda creepy. By 2013, even TNA fans were getting tired of the Hogan show. Ratings weren't improving, the company was losing money, and it was clear Hogan's name value wasn't what it used to be. When his contract expired, both sides seemed happy to move on. TNA should have been Hogan's victory lap, but instead, it just exposed how wrestling had passed him by. The business was changing, and the Hulkster couldn't adapt. But Hogan's biggest controversies were still coming. When WWE brought back Hogan in 2014 under a Legends contract, things looked chill for a while. However, everything really fell apart for Hogan in July 2015 when that racist rant from 2007 got leaked. WWE moved fast, fired him immediately, and scrubbed him from their website like he never existed. His Hall of Fame page disappeared, merchandise got pulled from stores, and even his video game character got cut. The wrestling community was split on forgiving him. Some black wrestlers like Mark Henry and Booker T were understandably hurt, while others like Virgil and Kamala showed support. But the damage was done. Hogan's legacy was forever tainted. When WWE quietly brought him back in 2018, it felt forced. His backstage apology to the locker room was reportedly awkward, with several wrestlers not buying his sincerity. New Day, Titus O'Neil, and others were openly skeptical because instead of addressing his comments, Hogan was warning people about being secretly recorded. That final Raw appearance on Netflix in January 2025 was brutal. Seeing one of wrestling's biggest icons getting rejected by the same fans he sacrificed his life for was honestly sad. You could tell he was hurt by it. His Real American Beer brand and arena football ventures seemed like desperate attempts to stay relevant. The guy who once commanded audiences of millions was reduced to hawking light beer and promoting minor league football. When news broke about his death from cardiac arrest on July 24, 2025, the wrestling world was devastated. Hogan's legacy is this weird mix of incredible highs and devastating lows. He created Hulkamania, changed wrestling forever, then spent his final years watching it all crumble because of his own actions. What a complicated, tragic end to an iconic career.